Good evening, everyone. I think we're ready to get underway. Welcome to the City of Boroondara Council meeting for the 19th of June 2023. We will commence by reading the Acknowledgement of Country, and I invite Councillor Franco to do so.
Thank you. I acknowledge the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people as the traditional owners and original custodians of this land, and pay my respects to the elders, past and present, and the elders from other communities who may be here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we get underway, can I request that all mobile telephones are switched off or turned to silent, please? Thank you. The council meeting is being live streamed on the council website, so you can watch proceedings of the meeting, councillor deliberations and voting. The meeting will also be recorded and made available on the council website as soon as practicable after the meeting. My name is Councillor Felicity Sinfield and I'm the Mayor of the City of Boroondara. I'd like to commence by introducing my fellow colleagues seated at the horseshoe table in the council chamber. Starting on my left, we have Councillor Jim Park, Councillor Cynthia Watson, Councillor Nick Stavrou, Councillor Wes Galt, Councillor Di Gillies, and on the other side of the table we have Councillor Gary Thompson, Councillor Jane Addis, Councillor Susan Bigger and Councillor Victor Franco. I also acknowledge in attendance this evening our Chief Executive Officer, Mr Philip Storer, seated to my right, and our Manager of Governance and Legal, Mr Brian Wee, seated to my left. We'll shortly be joined by our Chief Financial Officer, Amy Montalti, when the time is right. I'll now move to apologies. Mr Wee, I believe we have one apology this evening.
That's correct, Madam Mayor. Through you, Councillor Hollingsworth is an apology this evening. Thank you.
Next on the agenda is declaration of conflicts of interest of any councillor or council officer. Councillors and council officers, are there any conflicts of interest to declare in relation to tonight's agenda? It appears not. That brings us to the presentation of officer reports. And there is only the one item on tonight's agenda, and that is the adoption of our budget for 2023-24. I nearly said the wrong year then. And I welcome Amy Montalti, our Chief Financial Officer, to introduce this item.
Good evening, councillors, and through you, Madam Mayor. This report recommends that Council adopt the Budget 23-24 and declare the rates and charges for the 2023-24 financial year. This budget is financially sound and responds to the current challenges faced in cost escalations in the construction market. It reflects responsible decision-making and ensures the financial sustainability of Council now and for years to come. I will now hand over to the Mayor, who would like to say a few words.
Thank you. I'm pleased to present the City of Boroondara's budget for 2023-24 for adoption by Council this evening. The draft 23-24 budget was made available for our community to view between Wednesday the 24th of May and Tuesday the 6th of June 2023. On behalf of Council, I would like to thank those who took the time to review the proposed budget and make submissions and give us their feedback during this time. The 2023-24 budget has been shaped to fund projects and initiatives our community has told us were most important to them. So it makes sense that at the heart of our budget is our community's vision and priorities for Boroondara, the Boroondara Community Plan 2021 to 2031. We developed the plan with input from more than 5,000 community members. It's Council's key strategic document, and it guides everything we do to ensure that we deliver the outcomes our community seeks. The projects and initiatives included in the budget 23-24 respond to the focus areas our community has told us matter most to them, including preserving and increasing green spaces, considering the environment in all that we do, protecting the character of our neighbourhoods, caring for our community members, and expanding on cycling infrastructure. The 2023-24 budget also takes into consideration the economic conditions currently impacting both Council and our community as we navigate inflation, the rising cost of living, and the significant industry cost escalations affecting both existing and planned construction projects. In 23-24, we will continue to invest in high-quality, sustainable and inclusive community services and facilities, with $81 million committed to renewed and new community assets in the coming year. Key projects we will support include the much-awaited redevelopment of the Kew Library, with $20 million committed over 3 years, the revitalisation of the Glenferrie Oval precinct, including the creation of new public open space, and the refurbishment of the Michael Tuck stand, with $27 million allocated over 4 years. Investing in our sports grounds, which includes $2 million towards ground reconstructions and $1 million specifically for the playing surface at Dorothy Laver West Reserve, and several sports ground pavilion renewals across our city, with $8 million combined to support the Jack Gervasoni Pavilion at Willsmere Park, the Canterbury Sports Ground, Linden Park and Ferndale Park. We also remain committed to meeting the climate-related targets in our Climate Action Plan, with $1 million allocated to a range of initiatives focused on reducing council's emissions. Overall, the budget for 2023-24 has been prepared in line with council's commitment to sustainable budgeting, responsible financial management and the state government's rate cap. I'm confident that the budget for 23-24 shows how we are investing in our community services and facilities to foster community connection and continue our efforts to build a sustainable and inclusive community. Councillors, are there any questions for the officers at this juncture? There being no questions, councillors, is anyone prepared to move a motion? Councillor Park.
Yes, Mayor, happy to move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. And in search of a seconder, Councillor Watson.
Happy to second that, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And to assist the mover, is anyone opposed at this point? Thank you, Councillor Franco. And Councillor Park, as the mover, do you wish to speak to the motion at this point?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll keep my comments brief in light of the fact that you've already spoken, and the budget, of course, is the product of many, many months' worth of work, not only by the councillors seated around the table, but officers throughout the organisation at the highest level and right through the entire operation. So it lands before us the product of very significant work. I'm taken by surprise to hear that there's opposition. So at this juncture, I'll finish and I'll wait to hear what's raised and deal with that in my response. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Watson, as the seconder, do you wish to speak at this point or reserve your right?
I'll reserve my right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any other councillor that wishes to speak at this point? Councillor Franco.
Thank you, Mayor. And you've spoken eloquently in relation to some of the positive elements of the budget, and as has Councillor Park in relation to the considerable work and involvement that's gone to making the budget. My concern with the budget, and the reason I won't be supporting is because not necessarily because I'm opposed to fundamental aspects of the budget or what we've got before us, but because I'm not supportive of the approach we've taken in respect of public engagement and the way we're approaching this budget. In years to date, this council made the budget available for public scrutiny, encouraged and welcomed community feedback and input, and facilitated dialogue in relation to the budget. And this hasn't occurred for the first time this year. Council did resolve to give notice of its intention to adopt the budget and inform the community that it would be available to view on Council's website for a couple of weeks. But that aside, what's the point of allowing it to be viewed if we're not inviting comments and submissions and suggestions? And I disagree with what we're doing, even if it can be justified legislatively. I think it is legally valid, the approach. But in taking this approach, we're distancing ourselves from the values that at least I promise to stand for in respect of good, transparent and open government. Yes, the feedback we received from the community has been provided to councillors in full. It was provided earlier today. But that doesn't give us, even as councillors, much opportunity to review that feedback. And we've been informed by council management that these items will be considered and discussed with councillors during workshops undertaken as part of the development of the 24-25 budget. I'm sure that will be the case, but we haven't facilitated the opportunity for people to speak to the submissions here and to consider those submissions before us, and specific recommendations have been made to improve the current budget. I think it's very important that submitters should be afforded the opportunity to speak to council if they wish, and we've always done this before, and this new approach, in my view, is not a step forward to, maybe more efficient, but it's a step backwards, I think, in terms of some of the values we've previously embodied. Thank you. The fact that the budget was advertised, that we claim it's advertised on the budget, developed on the basis of the previous consultation on the Burundara plan is rather cheeky. I mean, the Burundara plan is not feedback in relation to specific budget priorities and allocations, and to suggest it is somewhat of an escape clause for our not consulting here. And finally, I think there are some budget amendments, we can do that, but...
Thank you, Councillor Franco. That's 3 minutes.
Okay, I'll leave it there. I'll leave my concerns there. I think that's fine.
Thank you, they're noted. Moving back to any other speaker who wishes to speak on the item. Thank you, Councillor Biggar, followed by Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. I wanted to call out a couple of things that I think are quite positive, and also just, I suppose, to respond or add to what Councillor Franco mentioned. One is that it's always great to see and I think this budget is no different, the real commitment in this council to improvements in cycling and also pedestrian safety. I think those two do go hand in hand, and I think there's been a lot of work on that over the last few years, and we're beginning to see the benefits of that. And I know both of those things are community priorities. I also wanted to call out how positive it is that there's a commitment to community roundtables with our LGBTQIA+ community, and I think that is a new step for us, and I think it's an important step for our community who do have greater risks of health issues and particularly, really serious potential outcomes. So I think that's a very positive aspect of the budget. And in terms of the consultation, I had concerns about the way we have consulted in the past. I felt that, and I think many councillors did feel frustrated with the fact that while we accepted submissions, we really didn't have any. By the time we got those submissions, we had spent hours and hours and hours, and officers and councillors working out a budget, and it was effectively too late to do much with that. And so I did want us to rethink that, and the change in the Act allowed us to say let's not consult at the last minute. So I think that's a positive. I would love us to think about how, moving forward, we incorporate that sentiment in a very real way, so that the community does feel that they are able to give clear feedback on the budget. Part of that, I think, is about how we engage with the community through the year, because building a budget is a year-long process, and I think it's about hearing those priorities, not just from the BCP, not just from the community plan, which is, every few years, but really on a regular basis, knowing that we're hearing and understanding the priorities of our community. So I have a slight reservations about the way it has gone this year. It's not perfect. I think it is actually a step in the right direction to move towards more wholesome or fulsome community consultation. And I hope that, that this is the way we do move, so that in a year from now we can feel that we really have given the community an opportunity to specifically engage with the budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I concur with the words that you opened with your presentation of the budget, as well as the mover and obviously Councillor Bigger's comments. There are some very positive things that are in the budget that are here. And it is true that we hear our community 365 days of the year. For that basis, what Councillor Bigger cited was the roundtables for the LGBTQIA+ community would not even be in the budget if we were only to listen once. I'd encourage Councillor Franco to consider supporting the budget, because his opposition is not so much the budget from what he's described, it's actually the process. And if it is the budget, then maybe he would be encouraged to move an amendment, as every sovereign councillor is able to do, unless he's used his opportunity to do so at this time, having spoken to it. We also have a September amended budget where we can consider further things that can actually address it. So this is a very good budget in challenging times. It's using, to the best of our ability, all of the assets that support our community in the breadth and the diversity of our community in its whole right. So I wholeheartedly support this budget. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Addis, followed by Councillor Galt.
Thank you, Mayor. There was just one aspect that I really wanted to address, and that was the suggestion that our community has not been properly afforded the right to give us input. And for me, that's very much not the case. I think what we've done is ensured that this is done in a balanced and meaningful way. And as has been said, the community can give us this feedback at any time. We're here to receive emails and phone calls, and naturally our thoughts and our choices when we put together the budget are influenced by what our community's told us. And that goes on all the time. It shouldn't and doesn't need to happen just at the last minute when we're putting together a budget and when we've put so much work into making it balanced. And I think the other really important way is that our community gives us properly unbiased data where all the community, or a very large number, a representative sample of our community, do tell us what is important to us. And it's on absolutely that information that our community plan is formulated. And you've heard from the Mayor that is what guides officers and all of us in putting together the budget. So I believe that what we've got is a really rigorous and thoughtful way to try and respond to the needs and wants of the broad span of our community. So I very much like what's in the budget, but I very much support the process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Addis. Councillor Galt.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to say that I agree with all the comments made around the table, including those from Councillor Franco. I have suffered at the other end of making comments towards the budget prior to joining council, and have observed many years since where lots of people put in lots and lots of effort and we can't do anything about it for obvious reasons, which I now understand. One of the things that have been missed out around the table, I would say, is we don't say we're not taking those comments into consideration, but we do say that we are taking them into consideration next year. So those comments are logged, and I look forward to seeing those comments considered carefully in next year's budget. I would like to say I've enjoyed the process this year because I think we've had ups and downs, difference of opinion, but we've arrived at quite a democratic budget at the end of the day. I'd also like to take the opportunity to thank officers who didn't just say, this is impossible because we simply haven't got the money. You came up with options, You came up with other ways around the problems, and we found a way of making it work. I'm very pleased to back this today. I'd like to be able to consult further, but it just isn't practical, and I'd rather be open and honest about it with our community, as we now are doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gold. I echo your comments. I think to have the statistically representative sample from our community to which Councillor Addis spoke is so important. It delivers a robust process and one that will withstand scrutiny. I would now like to pass back to Councillor Watson, if you would like to exercise your right.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll echo the comments that have been made around the table and say that this has been a very robust process that we've been through, and commend the budget to my fellow councillors.
Thank you. Councillor Park, your right of reply, would you like to?
Thank you, Mayor. Well, firstly, if I adopt the comment by Councillor Thompson that Councillor Franco's opposition isn't in substance opposition to the budget, but to one very small part that relates to consultation. And as I sit here voting on my 11th budget at Council, and Councillor Addis would have a similar recollection, having been here for the same period of time, not one single time during that decade was the budget amended due to public consultation that was at the 11th hour that was imposed by the previous legislation. It was impossible. It wasn't that Council wasn't interested in hearing the feedback, but it simply couldn't be achieved. So this is really about being absolutely transparent, firstly, and secondly, absolutely honest with the community. The simple fact is that we must adopt a budget by the 30th of June. And with so many moving parts and the significant implications of tinkering around the edges with a budget, the reality is that there simply isn't the opportunity to take last-minute feedback. But this budget doesn't drop from the heavens as a consequence of the whims of individual councillors. At best, all that any individual councillor can do is to provide input, to try and persuade colleagues of the particular merits of a particular project or whatever. But the fact of it is that we take professional advice from very highly qualified staff who assist us very, very significantly in this process. The notion that we could sit down tonight and sift through further feedback and then somehow be able to call a further meeting to consider a further revised budget is quite frankly a nonsense. And again, this is a budget that responds to feedback, as Councillor Addis pointed out, 365 days a year. I mean, we constantly get feedback and we do take note of that. We're cognisant of that when we develop a budget such as this.
Thank you,
So
Councillor.
I'd urge all councillors to support this, and because the fact is that it is the product of work of all 11 of us.
Thank you, Councillor Park. There being no further lights on at this point, I will now put that motion. All those in favour? And those against? Those abstaining? Thank you, Councillor Franco. That's noted. I declare that motion carried. Thank you, Ms Montalti and Ms Allen. That brings us to the end of council business for this evening. Before I close the meeting, I'd like to thank our community members who have attended both in person and online this evening. Thank you and good night.